Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are wading into a topic that affects every single one of us. The second we pick up a phone or sit down at a laptop, the battle for focus.
Yeah, it really is a battle.
It is. And if you feel like your attention is just constantly being fractured, if deep work feels less like a productive sprint and more like, I don't know, scaling a glass wall, you're absolutely right. This isn't just about personal willpower. It's about navigating a world that is systemically designed to siphon away your focus. So today, we're doing a deep dive into the incredible research of Dr. Gloria Mark, especially from her work in attention span.
And if you need a number, just one statistic to really grasp how profoundly things have shifted. Get this. Dr. Mark's research, it's longitudinal, so it tracks attention over years.
Right.
Back in 2004, the average person could stay focused on a single screen for about 150 seconds.
Okay, so 2.5 minutes. That feels manageable. I can do that.
Exactly. Now compare that to the data from between 2016 and 2021. That number, it just plummeted. It fell to an average of only 47 seconds.
Wait, 47?
47 seconds. That is the new normal. Less than a minute of sustained focus before the average person switches tasks, opens a new tab, or, checks a notification.
47 seconds. That's maybe 2 solid paragraphs of reading before your brain starts demanding something new.
Oh.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the whole point of this deep dive isn't just to make you feel overwhelmed.
No, not at all.
It's to move past this feeling that we just lack willpower and to really understand this systematic roots of all this distraction. The goal is to work toward what Dr. Mark calls psychological balance. We want our agency back.
And to even start that journey, we have to recognize what attention even is. It's not just some, mental function. It's a critical and finite resource. William James defined it so well. He said it's what I agree to attend to.
I love that framing, what I agree to attend to. It sort of puts the power back in our court, conceptually at least. But neurologically, how does the brain actually manage that agreement?
Well, it's pretty complex. It involves 3 really crucial neurological networks. First, you have the alerting network, which, keeps us vigilant, ready for whatever's coming in.
Okay.
Second is the orienting network. That helps us prioritize what to look at, what to listen to. And third, and this is the big one, is the executive control network.
That's the brain's governor, right?
That's the governor. It's the highest level of cognitive control. It helps us plan, prioritize, and most importantly, resist distraction.
So if executive control is the governor, what happens to us when that governor just runs out of fuel?
And that takes us right to the core problem, what she calls the depletion engine. All the research shows that our cognitive resources, our attentional capacity, it's a finite tank.
Right.
And every time you switch tasks, even for a second to check a Slack message or glance at a headline, you tap into that limited resource. This constant switching, which we, wrongly call multitasking, it leads directly to worse performance, more errors, and just significant mental fatigue.
The cost of those interruptions is just staggering. And this is where it gets really practical for anyone listening who works on a computer. If you get interrupted on a complex task, Dr. Mark's studies show it can take over 25 minutes to fully recover and resume that original task.
Yeah, think about that attention black hole for a second. A notification pulls you away. You click back to your report, but now you have to completely reload the mental model of where you were, what the next step was.
You're totally lost.
You're lost. And in those critical 25 minutes, you don't just stare at the screen. You usually engage in a bunch of other little tasks.
Yeah.
Check Twitter, reply to a quick email, scroll the news. It's all low-value activity that keeps the brain busy but gets you no closer to your real goal.
And that difficulty, I imagine, comes from this sort of war going on inside us between 2 different modes of attention, controlled and automatic.
Exactly. Controlled processing is that deep work. It takes effort. It relies heavily on that poor, exhausted governor, the executive control network. But automatic processing, that's guided by all the external stuff, the ding of your phone, and it takes almost no cognitive resources. Our brains, they're built for efficiency, so they naturally default to the easy automatic route.
So we're kind of evolutionarily primed to take the path of least resistance, and the digital world is just serving that path up on a silver platter constantly.
Constantly. And the real challenge is that suppressing those automatic responses, trying to ignore the email pop-up, fighting the urge to check Instagram, that takes constant cognitive effort.
So even ignoring it is work.
It's a huge drain. It leads straight to cognitive fatigue. And the more tired our brains get, the less impulse control we have, so we become even more likely to make those impulsive, distracting switches. It's a self-reinforcing loop of distraction.
And Dr. Mark points out these specific attention traps we fall into when our self-control fails. Two of them really stood out to me. First is the sunk cost fallacy.
Oh, this is a big one. It's the digital version of, sitting through a terrible movie because you already paid for the ticket.
Right.
You just keep scrolling a feed or reading repetitive comments because you've already invested time in it. Your brain justifies sticking with it to avoid admitting the time was wasted.
And then for younger users especially, there's something she calls the identity trap.
The identity trap is so interesting, and it's tied to something called context collapse. That's when all your different social circles, your boss, your friends, your grandma, are all in one digital space.
Oh yeah. Nightmare fuel.
It is. So younger users especially invest a huge amount of time curating this perfect online persona for all these different audiences at once. This constant investment in, social capital, likes, validation, it just pulls their attention away from everything else. They're literally spending their attention budget on managing a digital self-image.
So we've seen the internal damage, the depleted governor, the sunk cost trap.
Yeah.
But where's the external pressure coming from? Because this level of chronic fragmentation, it can't be an accident. Let's trace this back.
Absolutely. To understand why the internet is so good at fragmenting our focus, you have to go back to its conceptual roots. Mark traces the whole idea back to 1945 and a scientist named Vannevar Bush's proposal for the Memex.
The Memex.
Yeah.
That was basically the blueprint for a personal computer, right? Decades before it was a thing.
It really was. Bush imagined this device that could store and retrieve information using what he called associative indexing. It was a system for linking related documents together to mimic how our own memory works.
So the very first design idea for the internet, that node link structure, the hyperlink, was created to let us kind of intellectually hop around, just like our brains do when we free associate.
That is the key insight. The design of the internet with its nodes and links, it perfectly parallels how knowledge is theoretically organized in your own brain. So it makes finding information incredibly easy, but at the same time, as Mark says, it sets the stage for joyriding through the web.
That joyriding infrastructure is now, of course, run by algorithms designed not for helpful association, but for capture. I love the quote that sums it all up. The internet is also browsing you. I mean, the hard truth is your distraction is the product it's being paid for.
Distraction is absolutely the monetization model. And the algorithms, which are named after the 9th century mathematician Al-Khwarizmi, by the way, they're designed specifically to manipulate your attention to maximize your time on the site. And they do this using psychometrics.
Psychometrics. So, measuring personality attitudes. How does the internet measure my emotional state?
Through what's called digital phenotyping. They analyze your digital footprint. Not just what you click, but how you click. Your scroll speed, how long you pause on an image, the tiny delay before you reply to a message.
Wow.
All this data lets them infer your personality traits, your emotional vulnerabilities. If the algorithm thinks you're lonely, it serves you content designed to make you feel connected, or maybe envious to drive you to engage more.
Which explains why things like ad remarketing are so creepily effective. You look at a pair of hiking boots one time, and suddenly those boots are following you everywhere.
It's capitalizing on a core psychological response. Familiarity. Repeated exposure makes something feel familiar, and that increases its emotional resonance. You're more likely to buy it. Mark calls these algorithms guided precision missiles, designed to destroy your focus using your own psychology against you.
And the fuel for all of this is social amplification. We're all looking for social capital status, friendship on these platforms.
That's what keeps us clicking. Power dynamics play a huge role too. You're far more likely to reply immediately to an email from your boss than from a junior colleague, right? The platforms use that innate human drive for social standing to keep us compulsively engaged.
Okay, so the world is fragmented, our brains are depleted, and the internet is actively trying to hijack our resources. If the goal is psychological balance, where do we even start? For years, the gold standard for productivity was this idea of flow.
Flow.
Yeah.
That state of deep, intense engagement where everything just clicks. It feels amazing. But Mark argues that flow is just increasingly rare in our interrupted world. We need a more realistic framework.
All right.
So she introduces 4 attentional states based on engagement and challenge: focus, rote, boredom, and frustration.
And this is where we get to, for me, the most surprising finding in her work, the rote paradox. You'd think we're happiest when we're in that high challenge, focused state, but her research found people report being significantly happier during rote activities.
It's a huge reframing of productivity, isn't it?
It is. So rote tasks, low effort things like what? Organizing a messy desktop folder, tidying up, playing a simple crossword puzzle, that's actually good for us.
It's more than good, it's restorative. She calls it a psychological break. These tasks occupy what she calls the little mind, without using up the precious cognitive resources you need for deep thought.
So instead of being a productivity killer, a simple distraction can actually be an emotional respite.
Exactly. This low-stress engagement lets our cognitive resources replenish. And surprisingly, these breaks can actually boost creativity and problem-solving. It's because they allow our unconscious thought, our big mind, to incubate. You know when you stop banging your head against a problem and do something mindless?
And the solution just popped into your head.
That's when the solution floats to the surface.
There's actually a historical precedent for this. I was reading about Maya Angelou's creative process.
Oh, yes. She famously used the big mind for the heavy creative work, and then she'd switch to the little mind for light distractions. She would strategically intersperse them throughout her day. It shows that the key to sustained productivity isn't relentless focus, it's leveraging these different attention states.
Which means understanding our natural attention rhythms is key. Dr. Mark found that our focus tends to peak in the mid-morning and then again in the mid-afternoon.
Right, so if we can structure our day to hit the hard stuff during those peaks, and then interleave it with these temporary, positive, rote tasks during the troughs, we can keep going without burning out.
This all brings us to the big question of agency, right? We know the environment is stacked against us, but how much control do we actually have? Philosophers have debated free will forever.
They have. You have Einstein and B.F. Skinner, who believed our actions are pretty much predetermined by our environment. Then you have Libet's experiments that suggested our decisions start unconsciously before we're even aware of them.
So are we just doomed? Slaves to the algorithm and the 47-second clock?
Not if we embrace what's called soft determinism. It's the idea that, yeah, our behavior is heavily shaped by our environment and genes, but we still have agency to make meaningful choices within those constraints.
Okay.
And Mark stresses that just becoming aware of how technology influences you, that's the foundation for developing agency. Awareness is the first tool of resistance.
And that awareness lets us practice self-regulation. It reminds me of Walter Mischel's famous marshmallow study.
Yes. The kids who could delay gratification, who could resist the marshmallow, had better life outcomes. Resisting that instant digital marshmallow matters a lot.
So what are some practical strategies?
The most effective thing you can do is design your digital environment to create friction.
Friction, so make it harder to do the distracting thing.
Exactly. If you're always checking Twitter, log out every time. Move the app off your home screen. Install a utility that makes you wait 3 seconds before it opens a distracting app. It's about intentionally adding a little annoyance to interrupt that automated habit.
I like that. What else? What about when you're already in that state of constant interruption?
Another great tip is to externalize unfinished tasks. When you stop mid-task, that goal stays active in your brain, causing this mental tension. It's called the Zeigarnik effect.
Okay.
So just writing down the unfinished task and being specific about the very next small step, that reduces the mental load. It lets you move on without that constant, draining internal reminder.
But all of this responsibility can't just fall on the individual, right?
Sure.
Especially at work. We need systemic change.
100%. Organizations have to acknowledge that this culture of constant connectivity causes chronic stress. It keeps the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system, in overdrive.
The goal should be what Mark calls psychological homeostasis, right? The balance.
The balance between the sympathetic system and the parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. We need policies that actually let the rest and digest system do its job.
And a major solution that's gaining traction is the right to disconnect.
Yes, policies like the ones in France that let employees fully detach from work communications after hours. This is a critical systemic shift. It's the organization finally admitting that the 47-second attention span is a problem that they helped create.
This has been so illuminating. I mean, it really shows that managing attention is a systems problem, not just a personal failing. So let's recap. The average screen attention span has cratered to 47 seconds. Constant switching depletes our cognitive fuel, and it can cost us over 25 minutes to recover from just one interruption. The very design of the internet encourages this wandering, and algorithms are built to exploit it. But, and this is a big but, we have agency. And surprisingly, Low-effort rote tasks can actually boost our happiness and creativity.
And here's a final provocative thought for you to take away as you try to put this into practice. Dr. Mark's research found this really complex paradox about happiness and social connection.
Go.
While people felt instantly happier in, high-quality face-to-face interactions, when you measured happiness cumulatively at the end of the day, certain passive digital interactions, specifically on Facebook, actually contributed to greater end-of-day happiness.
Wow, so immediate joy versus a cumulative sense of well-being. That is a powerful distinction.
It is. So given that finding, and knowing the value of replenishing your cognitive resources with rote tasks, how should you redefine the value and the allocation of your own finite attention? Is it better to prioritize brief, high-intensity social moments or controlled, low-effort digital engagement to maximize both your productivity and your long-term psychological balance? Something to think about this week.